everyone, and welcome to the Southy Show podcast with me, your host, Connor South. Today I'm joined by my good friend DL. DL, what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, we're going to be talking about a big old subject today, a big old subject in Scottish society. It's the Glasgow Rangers we're going to be talking about today, Connor.
Oh, fabulous! My favourite subject. Um, so talking about the downfall and subsequent rise of the Glasgow Rangers, we're going to jump in our time machines, DL. We're going to go back to 2012
Oh,
and
Jesus.
Rangers FC are put into administration and are docked. Was it 12 points? I can't
It
remember.
was something like that. Aye,
Yeah.
it was bad anyway. I can't fully remember, but I know it wasn't exactly beneficial for Rangers. Put it that way. But
Uh,
then again, at that point in time, it was just it was an absolute doomsday scenario. Like for people listening to this outside of Glasgow especially. In fact, like I don't think they kind of appreciate just how bad it was for the Rangers fans. Really, it was something else.
it was one of those moments where it's almost like a historical event. For example, I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news that they'd went into administration.
Where were you?
I was walking down the maths corridor, and Nathan Morrison?
Yeah,
His brother came up behind us, and obviously Nathan's a Rangers fan, and his brother's a Celtic fan, and his brother was like, "Oh, you have went into administration, ha 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 ha," and all laughing. And I was like, "Oh my god,
it
that like
was. It was the day after my dad's birthday. I remember it because everyone we were all round at my house, and there was obviously my family's kind of split in half with the old firm divide. We were all talking about it, wondering what was going to happen. But I have to say, I didn't expect them to go into administration the next day. The thing was, I was 11 at that point, so
yeah."
and you were only 12, so you can't really appreciate at that point how sort of massive it is.
At that time, I didn't really fully comprehend what was going on. Like it was just one of those ones where it was just so mad. Like it just didn't expect anything like that to happen.
I know
Like
it felt like when you were watching old firm games, it kind of you got the impression that these will be here forever, and there's nothing that can kind of stop the old firm, if you know what I mean. Like it was sort of unfathomable for a lot of people to think, oh Christ, there might not be an old firm game, and I definitely think that Scottish football suffered because of it, because it was such a cataclysmic event, and then obviously the next year you had Hearts going into administration. Prior to that, you had clubs like Airdrie and Gretna and stuff going into
yeah,
administration as well.
Dundee.
Obviously, yeah, Dundee, exactly. Obviously, these clubs, well, barring Hearts, maybe these clubs, like, it wasn't as big a deal, but Rangers kind of made everyone turn around and think, Jesus, we need to get
Ran-
our act together here.
Rangers were probably one of the first clubs out of like what you would say the super clubs involved. Like, let's face it. I mean, we're obviously biased being from like that area, but Celtic and Rangers are two of the biggest clubs in the world, and to see one of them might not actually be there anymore
I
was
know.
just unbelievable.
It's like if you lived in Spain and someone was to tell you, oh, the El Clasico isn't going to be a thing anymore. Real Madrid are going to get administrated, liquidated, and all the rest of it. Like it's not something. It's like beyond people's comprehension. I know. I've spoken to a few sort of English people about it, and whenever you go away somewhere on holiday, it's always the first thing they ask you when you tell them you're from Glasgow, like, oh, who do you support, Rangers or Celtic? And then
Uh,
the next thing they want to know about is the administration. But they don't appreciate like how sort of big it was, and it was coverage like everywhere. It was like front page news. It was never off the radio, never off the TV. It was nearly as widespread as the bloody coronavirus coverage is now. Honestly,
I know.
it was comparable in terms of how much media attention it got.
Particularly up here. Um, what struck me is about it was how successful Rangers had been for the 3 seasons preceding that. Walter Smith, 3 seasons preceding that, they were
Yeah,
excellent. I mean, they'd won three in a row. They got to a European final. How could they go within 3 years to where they were? It was just that was what was so staggering to me. But I want to take you back to the second last Old Firm game of that campaign at Ibrox,
The
Rangers had
3-2
been
game.
Rangers had been in absolute turmoil
Or
on
I've
the
ruined
park.
your build up there.
Yes, I mean Rangers had been in absolute turmoil for those couple of months preceding that game, but that really showed you how important the Old Firm is, because the atmosphere at that game that day. I mean, there's a YouTube clip,
Or the Penny Arcade thing, the
and the
atmosphere
and
before it.
I'd honestly, I mean, obviously I'm not a great lover of the Glasgow Rangers, but I'd watch it and just to show you the passion, because the fans knew that
No.
that was going to be the last one at Ibrox for. Well, they didn't know if it was ever going to happen again, and they really showed
The
that day.
thing was that just typified like how strong the support was, and Celtic were. Like obviously there was another Old Firm just before it happened, and Celtic had they were reveling in it. They had the big Four Horsemen banner,
Yeah,
Horsemen of the Apocalypse banner up at Celtic Park, and it just felt like at the time it was just such an enormous thing, and obviously winning that game at Ibrox, that was massively important. Obviously disappointing for Rangers supporters that they didn't go on and win the league that year, so they could properly go out with a bang. But obviously, like you said, the
it
points
was made
disadvantage
impossible, really, wasn't it?
made it very difficult. But I think Rangers gave a good account of themselves towards the end. There was a few disappointing results. A home draw against Kilmarnock seems to stick out in that. That
Yeah,
obviously haunts Rangers to this day. They still can't beat Kilmarnock. So
Kilmarnock, man, they really turned a corner. But obviously, then liquidation comes and they're placed into the third division of Scottish football. Did you think that decision was harsh?
Well, I think in the circumstances, I don't know about harsh. I don't know about harsh because obviously the whole thing with the EBTs, Scottish football fans were up in arms because of these trusts that Rangers had used to play their players over and above what they would usually be able to, and that disgruntled a lot of Scottish football fans. But I think it came down to Rangers are absolutely like there's a moniker amongst the fans like nobody likes us, we don't care,
Yeah,
and that was the thing. Like nobody does like them, and that was evidenced. Like
because
that was evidenced strikingly because I think there was maybe an opinion like, well, they'll look past it and they'll think, you know, we need Rangers in this league for like financial sustenance. But I think the fans at the time, I think there was a campaign amongst other amongst the fans of Scottish clubs, and they said to their respective chairman, they said, listen, if you admit Rangers back into the top division of Scottish football, there is no way that we're going to be buying season tickets next year. And I think that frightened many owners because the TV deals up in Scotland, they're not great. So a lot of these smaller clubs do rely on season books and fans coming through the gates as their main stream of revenue. So they thought, well, we can't lose that, really. But I think it was a combination of that and just getting retribution for Rangers because they've been so all-conquering, especially in the 1990s.
the 90s
Celtic had kind of started to turn the corner in the 2000s. They'd won more titles, but still it was like they didn't. They wanted to see them punished, put it that way. But to answer your original point, was it unfair? In the circumstances, thinking about it, no, I don't really think it was unfair because just because it's Rangers doesn't mean that the same sort of standards don't have to be applied to them. I think they needed to go down, and I think for the good of the club because the way it was going, it was
they could have got
sleepwalking in.
relegated. It would be even worse if they got relegated that season. If they did stay in the Premiership, I think it'd have been worse if they got relegated.
I know, yeah. The thing was they were just sleepwalking into an absolute disaster, and I think in many ways they needed that wake-up call to just totally restructure the club, or as some people think, start a new club. But I won't get into that.
Yeah, that's probably a topic for another day.
It's an issue for another time.
But they're placed into the Iron Brew third division, as it was called at the time. Now it's called League Two, but
Can they keep up with what it's called? Changes every 2 minutes.
Changes every 2 minutes, like the
Like the
League
weather.
Cup. But so they're placed into the Iron Brew Scottish League 3, and it was just mental, like watching them play Elgin City and Stirling Albion away at grounds where like there stands a hedge, like behind the goal.
I think if you talk to Rangers fans who went to those away grounds, they in a way they enjoyed it because it was like I've seen a lot of stuff on the internet, and people thought it was like a carnival atmosphere. It was like Rangers were turning up in these wee tiny towns, like the team bus winding its way through these tiny wee narrow streets, and it was like a big day out for these people in these small towns. You know, the big, massive, famous football club that normally wouldn't be at these grounds unless it was in a cup competition, are actually coming here to start their journey back to the top division, and it was unbelievable. And I remember watching the games on BBC Alba.
Aye, BBC Alba. That's used to always get shown
with the commentary in Gaelic, and it was just a lot of gibberish, and then you would hear like bloody Ali McCoist or David Murray's name or like Lee McCulloch's name.
David Templeton.
Oh God, aye.
One thing that always struck me about them was when they get relegated was they made a mistake. And the mistake for me was they signed almost past it Premiership players, like from the likes of, I'm looking at players, I've got a couple of them written down here, I'm looking at players like Francisco Sandaza, Kevin Kyle.
Yeah.
These players, what I think they should have done, and you can let me know your opinion on this, is they should have just scrapped it and went for the full youth team. Because the youth team would have been good enough to break through those divisions, and by the time they got promoted eventually to the Premiership, which, let's face it, they were always going to get back, that team would have been a very strong team because it'd been through that altogether.
See, the thing is, I do get where you're coming from with that, but I think there needed to be consistency right through the club for that to happen, for there to be a proper, solid team of like young, hungry stars coming through the club to come up to the Premiership. I think there needed to be consistency throughout the club. You know, from day one, when Charles Green took over from Craig White, there was questions about Ali McCoist, and then after that, there was questions about Charles Green and whether he was just trying to strip the club of all its money, basically. You know, so I think
he was a character, wasn't he?
So I think I should say that again. So I think if you wanted to have that consistency going back to the top, you needed an owner who believed in that vision. And then obviously Mike Ashley came in after that, so it wasn't much better. But I disagree with you on the basis of the more experienced Premiership players. I think Kevin Kyle especially was unlucky. Obviously, he's on the Open Goal podcast. He talked at length about his time at Rangers, and he
does come across well.
He always says he's like, even though he nominally supported Celtic when he was younger, he thought that playing for Rangers is a massive opportunity, and how can you turn it down? And I think he was quite unlucky with injuries, I understand, but I think it was good having those experienced players, because people like Lee McCulloch and then Chris Boyd came in, obviously Kenny Miller came back. I think having players like that, Lee Wallace, exactly, I think having players like that was good to sort of steady the ship. I don't know, because the thing was, and I've heard a lot of people who were there saying this, like, for these smaller teams, it was like playing Rangers at home in these tiny grounds. It was like the biggest game of their lives. So
and some of them played very well.
So they weren't going to lie down for Rangers. They were never going to lie down for Rangers. And I think it would have been very arrogant for Rangers to say, oh, well, we can just play a load of 16-year-olds and we'll steamroll all of them. I think Rangers they paid credit to a lot of these smaller teams. And it was great for the lower divisions, because every single team got record crowds, and, you know, obviously all these records about there's never been a highest attendance in a fourth division match anywhere in the world.
Yeah, like the Rangers were still selling out their ground, like in the third division.
Exactly.
50,000 people turn up to watch them play Elgin City. I mean, it just shows you how much the club means to people. Like,
yeah, it shows you how much of an important institution it was, and it wasn't until things sort of started going wrong with Mike Ashley and Ali McCoist, and the team weren't playing as well in the Championship. I think that was when the frustration started to grow, and I think it was at that point Rangers supporters said, listen, we've got to take a step back here, because if we don't take a step back, they're just going to keep doing this, and they're going to think it's acceptable. Which I think, obviously, if you're a supporter and you've got a season ticket, I do think it's important that you go and you support your team as much as possible. But
yeah,
I think in circumstances like that, it's excusable.
So they won the Scottish Division 3 as they expected to. I mean, it was hard going down there. I mean, a lot of teams gave them a good good game. I mean, they did.
And
I'm pretty sure they get beat a couple of times in
yeah,
that
they
league
did. They did,
away
and
from home.
it wasn't just the league. It was obviously right throughout Rangers' campaign in the lower divisions. They always had that monkey on the back of winning the Petrofac Cup.
Yeah, or the Ramsden's Cup it was called back then, wasn't it, when they first went down?
Something like that. Honestly, the naming rights in Scottish football competitions are fucking ridiculous. But
That's true.
no, they had that monkey on their back right through, and it was only under Mark Warburton that they actually finally managed to win it, which
And that was year 4.
which goes to show you that really it wasn't as sort of straightforward as Rangers maybe would have expected it to be.
So they get promoted, obviously, to the next division, where League One. Try to chat about this season is nothing really happened.
It's the most nothingy season I can remember. Obviously, League Two was big because
It was their first season down.
Yeah, but League One, they went. Well, I sort of regret to use the word invincible because beating teams like that, you don't really attach the word invincible to an achievement like that.
Well, when Dunfermline are your biggest opponents, like
but they did go and beat.
I mean, you can only beat who's in front of you. That's what I say. So I mean, it was a good achievement. Like, and,
exactly.
Anybody will tell you it's hard to go a full season unbeaten. But they were. They did do well that season.
Because they were playing, because in Scotland you play teams like up to 4 times a season, 5 if it's in the cup, potentially even 6. It is a long, hard season in Scotland. You know, most of the time you're playing during the week and then at the weekend. So I think it was
the Rangers. They're playing against teams that have got literally nothing to lose by playing them. They'll go out and go full force at them.
I know, and obviously the expectation of the crowd was massive because I think certain sections of the Rangers support thought, right, come on, we're Rangers, we'll go out and we'll beat these mugs like 6 and 7 and stuff. But it didn't kind of.
Certain players couldn't handle it as well. I mean, I remember it was Nicky Law. He came out and said that the atmosphere was poisonous.
Oh, he said that, but I think I don't know. I think it's just a bit of a culture shock because obviously playing in England, no disrespect to those clubs, but they don't have the expectations that Rangers do. Obviously, Rangers have a glittering history. You know, most successful club in Scotland, most successful in the club in the world, some would say, and it was just that level of expectation probably wasn't expected by players like that. So when they come up here,
it probably frightened them actually.
Yeah, so when they come up here and they've not, I know, like, having been to like these grounds like Celtic Park and Ibrox, I know that like the fans they do get on your back fairly quickly if you're not performing up to
definitely
a certain perceived standard. And whether that's fair or not, I think players just have to learn to adapt to that.
It's just the expectancy, isn't it? So we'll talk about that season. I mean, they got promoted to the Championship and they go into what I would describe as the hardest championship I've ever seen in my entire life. Because you had, just pre-administrative Hearts, you'd been relegated. Hibs had been relegated. So they go into a league with Hearts, Hibs, 2 clubs which, let's face it, should be top half Premiership teams.
Aye.
Them, and they also had teams like Falkirk, who were a good team. I'm pretty sure Green at Morton were pretty good that season as well.
Yeah, Green at Morton gave Rangers a couple of
Queen of the South
runs that season.
Queen of the South were a good side.
Oh no, it was a really solid championship season that year, and it was just the unrest at the club had kind of peaked at that point, I think, because obviously Ali McCoy got put on garden leave halfway through that season, and it was just after that it was a bad inconsistency. You know, Stuart McCall came in, and it was questions about whether he was the right man for the job and so forth.
Yeah,
I don't think that if they got promoted that season, obviously they didn't. There was the 6-1 aggregate loss to Motherwell, but if they had got promoted that season, they would not have been in a good state for going into the Premiership at all. Really, I think it did take Mark Warburton coming in and kind of steadying the ship to sort of rectify things a wee bit.
Looking at that season, I mean, some of the results were just like awful. I mean, really awful. I mean, there was a 4-0 defeat to Hibs at Easter Road.
Yeah.
There was a 3-0 defeat away at Queen of the South. There was obviously like you said, the playoff defeat to Motherwell when they lost 6-1 in aggregate.
That's the big one that sticks out. That's the one that people remember. But obviously, there's these results in the background that you definitely forget about. And there was things. It was just the club were becoming a bit of a laughing stock because obviously, as I said, like the fans weren't turning up, and there was players like Mojny, like punching people on the pitch and stuff, and it was just. It wasn't. It didn't feel good. The atmosphere around the club didn't feel good that season. And in a way, if I were a Rangers fan, I would say I would be glad to not have went up that season and to have that next season to properly bed in some new players and then go back up.
Hearts obviously won the league that season. I want to talk a wee bit about them that year. I mean, they really showed everybody how to go into financial crisis and bounce back because that Hearts team under Robbie Neilson were just phenomenal. Like,
they
really
did.
phenomenal.
Robbie Wilson's that. Not
Robbie
Wilson.
Neilson.
Robbie Neilson. What am I talking about? Robbie Neilson. You can edit that out. Robbie Neilson is he's a great coach. Where is he? He is now Dundee United.
Dundee United. He just got them promoted as well.
He's doing a good job there. So I think it just goes to show. Obviously, it was a bit of a waste of time going down to MK Dons. I've no idea why he would leave a club like Hearts to go down to somewhere like MK.
The thing was, like, he had Hearts sitting third in the league when he left as well, and they literally. They had them sitting third in the league in the Premiership, and he left to go to MK Dons. I mean, he could have taken Hearts on. I mean, I don't think they probably wouldn't have qualified for the Europa League, but they could certainly had a good go in the qualification rounds.
But I think the Hearts fans would have liked that, and I think the teams out with Rangers and Celtic. I think realistically, their like highest expectation for a trophy is the Scottish Cup and the League Cup. So I think if you have to get a good run in them and you have to sort of have a good go at it in Europe and just be consistent across the season, I think that's the kind of metric for being successful with clubs like that. And I definitely think Robbie Neilson could have continued that sort of consistency.
Yeah, definitely, because his Hearts team were always good. They always gave whoever they were playing a decent game. Back onto that season, McCoist obviously gets sacked after. Well, not sacked. He gets released from
garden leave. But nobody really knows what garden leave is, do they?
No. What was your thoughts on that? Do you think it was the right time for him to go?
Well, obviously, Ali McCoist's an absolute legend, not only Rangers but of Scottish football, and his impact on the game, on our game, cannot be underestimated. And I think he worked admirably under very, very bad circumstances from the point of getting relegated to getting back there. But I just don't think, I don't know, I think because he was so emotionally attached to the club and he was so desperate for them to go up, I think his emotions might have maybe clouded some of his decisions, maybe, because I think they needed someone who could look at it from a more sort of, and not necessarily an outsider's point of view, but someone that could look at it from a different point of view and think, right, how are we going to best rebuild this club? Because Ali McCoist had been in the Rangers framework since 1983, don't forget. Yeah. So maybe, obviously, he was used to the club and he knew how it ran and he knew the expectations of the fans and so forth. But I think maybe an outsider's perspective is very beneficial at times. I mean, you look at a situation like Arsenal, like Arsene Wenger came out of almost obscurity. Like, he came from Japan before he came to Arsenal, and he had like unbelievable success. In no way am I comparing Arsene Wenger to Stuart McCall, by the way. Don't think I'm saying that, but it just goes to show that sometimes having an outsider's influence and someone who has different experiences from your own is beneficial.
McCall obviously came in. His reign, I think it was always destined to fail, to be honest with you. Like, for the moment he got it.
I just something wasn't. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's just something wasn't. Something was up. They needed a different person to steer them to the championship, and obviously they got that in Warburton.
There weren't many high points from that season. One player I want to talk about, and I think you'll remember him as well, was one of the many loan signings that came up from Newcastle in January, the Slovenian Haris Vukic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
He was
he was
a
a good
good
signing.
player.
Yeah, he was, and it's unfortunate. I don't know. They got rid of him? Well, not his loan expired by the end of the
Yeah,
season. Then he went back down to Newcastle, didn't he? But
yeah.
that was the kind of caliber of player that would be expected to come to Rangers at that sort of time.
He was a shining light in that season when he arrived because you felt like like almost like every time he was on the pitch, he was like a sort of creative spark that Rangers that season just didn't seem to have. They were,
Yeah, it was. It was very flat, needless to say. Yeah, and I just go back to my original point. Like, I don't think going up that season would have done them any good if by some miracle they managed to reverse the result against Hearts and go up. I don't think it would have done them much good at that point, to be perfectly honest.
no, definitely not. So obviously they've got another season in the Championship after failing to go up, and a new guy comes in, former Brentford manager Mark Warburton. I have to say, I didn't know what to make him when he first arrived. To be fair, like I've obviously seen quite a lot of Championship football in England, and I seen him. He'd done well at Brentford, but I just thought like this job is like such a step up from Brentford. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously, I think he'd laid very good foundations at Brentford though, because obviously Brentford had implemented the Moneyball system, which is a more rigorous way of recruiting players. And I think Dave King, who owned Rangers by that point, probably looked at that and thought, that's just what we need. We need a guy who has a real nous in the transfer market, and he's able to bring in the right people for this job. And honestly, he did exactly that. Players like Barry Mackay, Wes Fodringham, Martin Wycorn, they would form the bedrock of the team that would help Rangers to go up, and played pretty consistently throughout their first season back in the Premiership. And I think that on one hand attracted Dave King, but they also played very well in the Championship. It wasn't just their recruitment; they played extremely well, and I think they got into the playoff positions. But I don't quote me on that. I'm not
They did.
too
They did.
sure about that one.
They did do very well in the Championship. I'm thinking I'm almost certainly going into the playoffs. But he comes in and his first game is obviously Petrified Cup first round against two Rangers' biggest challengers that year would be Hibs, and he beats them 6-2 at Easter Road. And I was thinking, wow, that's a statement of intent if I've ever seen one in my entire life.
Yeah, he did. He definitely laid down a marker with that result. And throughout that Championship season, even though there was a couple of kind of blips, mainly against Hibs, it was, you always felt that Rangers were in the strongest position to go up, really. And the Hibs Rangers rivalry that sort of brewed from that season, that was
The mini
the
Old
main
Firm.
that was the main story of the season. Basically, that was the biggest thing going on in Scottish football at that time, and obviously it came to a head in the Scottish Cup final, which I'm sure we'll get on
We'll
to
get on to that eventually.
couple of minutes.
Yeah. What struck me about that season was how good the players were and how quickly they gelled. So you had the likes of Tavernier, Waghorn, Fodringham, Kiernan, Wilson all coming in, and they kind of bedrocked with the kind of senior players like Lee Wallace and Kenny Miller were there, and they all kind of formed this really kind of, it was like a good tight knit, and they seemed like a proper team, like they were playing for
Yeah,
each other. It was something I hadn't seen from a Rangers team since they were actually in the Premiership.
I know. I get exactly what you mean, and it wasn't just that. It was some of the loan players they bought in as well. It was Gedion Zelalem from Arsenal. Obviously, he was a quiet young sort of 18-year-old boy at the time, but
Yeah,
scored against Celtic in a cup semi final. Scored the penalty against Celtic in the cup
yeah,
semi final, and he was shushing the Celtic fans.
yeah.
So I think that
They
sort
got
of
it. They
showed
got
that.
what it meant.
I think that goes to show the sort of confidence that Mark Warburton bred into those players. They said, "Listen, we're Rangers, but we might be in the Championship, but we're still an enormous club, and we need to go up." That was the main focus. Like, yeah, one season they needed to go up, and they did just that.
That,
Obviously,
that,
they won the
that
Championship, won the Petrified Cup. Disappointing for them in the Scottish Cup final, but it was a great season overall. If you're a
Yeah, because
Rangers fan.
I watched an interview with Mark Warburton, and he literally all he said was like, my job description for that was get promoted. Which
Yeah,
that was it, get
I
promoted.
mean, there was no other option for them because Rangers fans would not accept a third consecutive season in the Championship.
Oh, I think that could have finished them.
It's the sort of thing you see, a sort of similar thing with Sunderland.
Yeah.
You know, when they went down to League One, there was a perception like, listen, we are a huge club. We don't belong here. We need to go up. And they failed to go up. And they're still in that division now. And from what I've seen of them this season, it's been a bit of a slog for them. They haven't really gelled. You know, they sacked Jack Ross, brought in Phil Parkinson. And it's just, you know, if you don't get that bowl, and if you don't go straight back up, then I feel like
it comes very difficult.
Yeah, there might be an acceptance of it, like, well, this is maybe who we are now among certain people in the club, and then maybe it's extremely hard to get back out of that division, harder than it was before. But thankfully for the Rangers support, that never happened.
Obviously, we have to get on to the semi-final at Hampden against Celtic. Honestly, before that game, I thought Rangers were going to win. And I'll tell you why. I remember we went to watch, obviously we're from East Kilbride, and we went to watch East Kilbride versus Celtic, and your dad went with us, and your dad said to me, all right, Celtic will probably win 8-0 today. And I knew how bad Celtic had been that season. I went, trust me, they'll struggle. They will struggle to score 2 goals today. And your dad was like, nah, it'll be eight goals against East Kilbride earlier on in that cup competition. And lo and behold, it was a really scrappy 2-0 win for Celtic against a part-time team.
That was a horrendous game, but I think a contributing factor for that was the majority of the fans in the ground were Rangers fans from East Kilbride.
Yeah,
I don't think it's any secret to be saying that, but you know, I described the carnival atmosphere earlier on when Rangers were in League Two, and it was the same there. It was like, you know, it was really, really intense for the Celtic players. I remember Ronnie Dyler got a shoe thrown at him at one point. So, you know, I don't know. And obviously it took Colin Kazim-Richards to score a goal.
Oh, God.
So that just shows how bad they were that day that he was managing to score. So.
Yeah, that was one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen from.
Oh, I was extremely poor, but that sort of typified Celtic that season. You know, yes. the first season under Dyler was good. They got to the round of 32 in the Europa League. Very unlucky against Inter Milan, obviously.
Yeah.
But then that second season, it was like, I think they saw Rangers sort of building up in the Championship, and maybe that was an increasing threat. And people forget Aberdeen, they did, even though it was relatively comfortable in the end, Aberdeen did give a good account of themselves.
Yeah, they were good.
SPL.
They were good.
They really did.
But anyway, we come to that semi-final against Rangers at Hampden. Honestly, before that game, I generally thought Rangers are going to win this today. They just seemed a lot more up for it. Like I'd never seen. There was a semi-final in the League Cup the season before, and the Rangers fans really weren't excited for it because they knew how bad they were going into it, and it was almost the opposite for Celtic fans for that semi-final. They knew how bad they were playing.
It was like the whole sort of the energy surrounding the game had just been flipped entirely on its head.
Yeah,
going into that semi-final, and it was just because Rangers were going into it in an absolute scorching run of form. They were doing so well, and the belief is definitely behind them. And even though I think, I mean, there's a lot of revised history around that game because it's obviously a very significant game in the context of Rangers' rise back to the Premier Division of Scottish football, and the significance of it cannot be underestimated, I think. And it went to show Rangers were so up for it, and they played really well. And obviously, there's memorable moments like the Mackay screamer and stuff that, and Kenny Miller scoring,
Patrick Roberts-Smith,
but Rangers. You know, it showed that even though they won, it showed they weren't invincible. The game went to penalties, even though Celtic were very poor. Very poor. Even though Rangers were playing at what people would consider their absolute best, and Celtic were playing below their absolute best, it showed that it was still close, and it wasn't. Rangers couldn't just come up. I remember there being a lot of their kind of perception amongst Rangers fans, like, oh well, we're going to go straight back up, and we're going to win the league straight away. I never thought that was going to happen because
I was going to ask you that. Yeah,
I seen how close that semi-final was, and then obviously Celtic thought, right, no offence to Ronnie Dyler, really good manager, managed to win 2 league titles in a row,
you can't take that away from him.
which is a difficult job. Brought some great players to the club, developed Kieran Tierney, exactly, brought him into the team, made James Forrest a better player, made Callum McGregor a better player. So I don't think his work can be underestimated, but I think there was a feeling round about that time that, Ronnie needs to go. I remember that just being the sort of mantra among Celtic fans.
Because I don't think he could have handled a Premiership with Rangers in it.
I don't think he could have handled a title race like that, really.
Whether there was going to be one the next season is, if he'd stayed in charge, is like it's 6 and a half a dozen. You don't know if that would have happened. But we obviously, Rangers get to the final and they play their old enemy from the Championship.
Play the High Bees, aye. Yeah, well, obviously, I've seen stuff, interviews with Mark Warburton that day, and he just said that Rangers were absolutely on their last legs. It had been such a long run in with having to play. The season started so early for them. They started with the League Cup games, and then obviously the Championship season. There's only 10 teams in the Championship, so if you think about the amount of times you'll need to play each team to make up, a proper league, to make up a proper season. Obviously they had to play all those games, then the big long run in the Scottish Cup, and I think a couple of players' loans had came to an end, so they couldn't even
do that.
They couldn't even name 6 substitutes on the day. There was only 5 people on the bench.
Yeah, there was only 5 people on the bench, and one of them was a goalkeeper, so technically there's only 4.
Only 4, and Rangers did very well to get 2-1 in the final, but it was their old Achilles heel throughout their time in the Championship, which had cost them points, corner kicks and set pieces, and that was it. And they learned a very costly lesson that day that they needed to improve that. And obviously the stuff after the game with the pitch invasion was quite unsavoury.
It was unsavoury. It kind of haunted back to what the big problems with Scottish football is.
Yeah, it did. It sort of showed that, and it put a dampener on what had been such a good season for Rangers. Obviously, it would have been great if they'd won it, but even though it was very impressive that they managed to get there in the first place to beat Celtic, and then maybe they sort of spoiled it for themselves a wee bit at the end with that. But obviously, I won't get too deep into that because it's quite a contentious point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but at the end of the day, they're back in the Premiership that next season. I mean, it's a big moment. Like, Rangers are back in the league. I mean, it was one of those ones where that was a bigger news than Celtic's unveiling of the league flag, because Rangers were back in the league. And
it was massive.
It was
huge. We were at Partick Thistle versus Inverness. First game of the season, weren't we?
Yeah, they played the early kickoff. Rangers against Hamilton.
And we weren't getting the scores in because obviously there was the crowd at Partick Thistle and our 4G wasn't working.
Yeah.
And the guy announced it at half time and he said, it's Hamilton 1, Rangers 1, and it was like, oh my God, really? Hamilton Accies, for those who don't really I assume by listening to this you follow Scottish football, but for those of you who might not know,
for those of you in Lithuania to listen to this.
For those of you in like an Arctic research base listening to this, Hamilton Accies are cannon fodder basically.
Yeah.
Every time you play them in the Scottish Premiership, there is a massive expectation that you're going to beat them, because in reality they're a tiny club. They barely managed to get 1,000 people at their game, and no disrespect to Hamilton. Obviously, I think they've done very well to stayed up.
Yeah, they seem to always survive.
Yeah, they seem to always just kind of keep their heads above water, but whenever the big boys play them, there is an expectation.
There's an expectation you're going to give them an absolute doing.
And Hamilton scored first that game. So
I know, Ali Crawford.
It just showed that Hamilton weren't going to lie down, and they were more than determined to ruin this party that Rangers have got set up. Obviously, they had the card before the game with the big tifo for 55 and stuff.
What did you make of the signings at some of the likes of? Because I'm looking here, you had Joey Barton come in, Joe Garner,
Nico
Cranshaw,
Clint Hill.
Philip Senderos.
Well, I think obviously when you hear those names read back to you, they have a combined age of about bloody 500 or something.
Aye.
No, I don't mean that. Obviously, they're great. They're experienced pros. Joey Barton, especially, what a player he was. Absolute Premier League stalwart. Clint Hill, he's played something like 700 games in football. He's a real seasoned pro. Obviously, Nico Kranjčar, 80 caps for Croatia. So in their day, all unbelievable players. Senderos, part of the Arsenal squad that got to the Champions League final. So these players
They're
are not to be
experienced.
laughed at. But the thing was, they were a bit kind of past their peak. And I think Mark Warburton's thinking was, other than players like Kenny Miller, Rangers squad was fairly young. What with players like Barry Mackay and James Tavernier, Danny Wilson, Rob Kiernan at the time. Their team
Harry Forrester.
Andy Halliday, Michael O'Halloran, players like that. Their team was fairly young, so maybe he thought he needed to counterbalance that with some experience, but I think it might have went too far the other way. I think because Nico Kranjčar, honestly, sometimes when you watch Rangers that season, Nico Kranjčar would start the game, and after 50 minutes, he would be dead on his feet. He could hardly walk, basically.
Yeah.
So
I didn't help as well. I always thought it didn't help as well. And speaking to Rangers fans at the time, it didn't help. Obviously, you want people to be passionate, but the way Joey Barton came out and spoke about the game and how he was a class above. He basically said he was a class above it. It doesn't help. I mean, a lot of Rangers fans cringed at that. They were a bit like, "Hang on a second, you've not proved anything up here yet."
Yeah, obviously the big talking point with that was his battle with Scott Brown.
Yeah.
I think that was very naive of Joey Barton to get into that, of coming up here and saying, I think there was a certain, obviously Joey Barton's one of the most fucking arrogant people on planet Earth probably, but obviously he came up here and he was like, I'm going to run Scottish football riot. It's nothing to me, Scott Brown, who's he? And I think that just played into Celtic's hands, because obviously the big talking point of that season is the 5-1 at Celtic Park.
That first game was it just showed the class between the sides. It was like it's where Rangers were and where Celtic were, and it showed on the pitch that day. Like
it did,
that was the gap.
When Rangers managed to pin it back to 2-1, I think people thought, right, well, we could kick on from here, but I think the occasion might have just got to some of the players, and obviously it ended up 5-1. Philip Senderos effectively ended any hope of having a future Rangers career by getting sent off.
Yeah.
And then they played Joey Barton. They moved Joey Barton into centre back and stuff like that. And I think at that point it was just, the omens were not good, to be fair. And then obviously the Moussa Dembele hat-trick, it just showed how good Celtic had been in the market to bring in a player of that calibre. And your first game, it clearly didn't faze him. A hat-trick in an Old Firm, first thing that had been done in however long. Yeah.
I mean, and also we missed a big point as well, the fact that Celtic that season, Brendan Rodgers comes in. I mean, that just completely changed the landscape of Scottish football for me.
I actually remember at the time people thought, because of the way it had ended that kind of last season and a half after the Gerrard slip with Liverpool, people kind of thought Brendan Rodgers is a bit of an idiot, like they didn't manage to get out of their Champions League group, and they lost 6-0 to Stoke and stuff on the last day of the season. But
he'd just been sacked as well.
Yeah, he'd just been sacked in the October, and he obviously took some time out of football before coming back to Celtic. But people forget how great a manager he is. You don't get to be manager of Liverpool Football Club without being a good manager.
And he took that Liverpool team, remember, it was so, like, nobody that season, nobody thought they were going to be challenging for the league when they challenged for the league that season under him.
I mean, they had defensive kind of deficiencies, but Brendan Rodgers made up for that by assembling such a unbelievable attacking force, like Suarez, Sterling, and Daniel Sturridge in the form of his life. Like, it's unbelievable.
You had like Coutinho and all that playing as well.
Gerrard as well.
Gerrard
having one of his best seasons in a Liverpool shirt.
Yeah, they were something else that season, and obviously I generally did feel really sorry for them when they didn't actually win the league that season, because I honestly thought they deserved it.
But
But
I think the kind of 14-15 season and the first part of the 15-16 season maybe I wouldn't say tarnished Brendan Rodgers' reputation, but it kind of
it dented it.
lowered people's estimations of him a wee bit. And then when he came up to Celtic, the English press are having a field day like, oh, he's taking an easy payday. He's just going to be a walk in the park. And that first season
It
did
was.
prove to be something of a walk in the park, but they were unbelievable.
They were so
To
good.
get
Like people forget how good they were.
to get to the Champions League as well, and I know that they were very disappointing in the results against Barcelona
But they had
and
some good results as well. The Manchester City
Borussia
game.
Mönchengladbach. Yeah, and obviously things didn't start. Go off to a bit of an
Well,
auspicious start, losing to Lincoln Red Imps. But
yeah, that was an interesting one. That one. I mean, I don't. Like, once again, it was one of those things that nobody seen coming, and it was
no,
99 times out of 100 that doesn't happen, and then it did.
you
But
know, but the thing is, like nobody would have seen Celtic getting 3 goals against Pep's Manchester City, would
no,
they? And they managed to do that. So
I know in the same season. But anyway, back on the Rangers, the 5-1 game. After the 5-1 game, I seem to remember Rangers picked up a wee bit. Like, well, they didn't really. Not straight after they lost to Aberdeen away, which is for those of you who are outside of
yeah,
Scotland, Aberdeen Rangers is one of the biggest games of the season.
it's massive. Yeah, it's just I don't know because it felt as if like even though they were winning games, it just felt like they were never going to string together a run that would properly challenge Celtic. Obviously, losing to Aberdeen's a big thing for the Rangers support. And it just never felt that they were going to properly get the wheels in motion and have a real charge towards the title that season anyway. And then obviously February comes along and Mark Warburton leaves his job under very suspicious circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when that happened. I was sitting playing Xbox actually, and somebody said Mark Warburton's left Rangers, and then almost as I clicked on the article, it came up saying Mark Warburton hasn't denies he's left Rangers, and I still don't know what happened there. Like, I don't know how that was
Oh,
such a mess.
it's extremely confusing, and it just I, to this day I don't really understand like whether he got sacked or whether he left. Obviously, walked straight into a job at Nottingham Forest
That's a bit
after that,
suspicious.
and yeah, I know. And there's the perception that Davy Weir kind of snaked the club a wee bit, and so did Mark Warburton. But Rangers were sitting second at that point. I mean,
Yeah, I mean they,
that
they
that
had they
that
had
can't
picked
be
up on
ignored.
form. I mean, I remember the game against Celtic at New Year. They lost 2-1 at Ibrox, and they were literally, it was a Harry Forrester ran through and goal, and he could have squared the ball to Kenny Miller, and he didn't, and that's what cost
Yeah,
him a draw that day.
the thing is, like with all old firms, it's like it's fine margins. You know, you look back on those big chances. Like I'm sure Patrick Roberts would, or was it
Okay.
James Forrest?
No, it's Patrick Roberts.
I'm sure Patrick Roberts would have looked back on his miss in the semi-final, and that just goes to show that it's fine margins.
Yeah, so obviously Warburton leaves, caretaker Graham Murray comes in. Doesn't
Yep.
really go well for him at the start. I mean, I remember them losing away at Inverness, who were bottom of the league at the time, which
Yeah,
was
they had
pretty bad.
that was ridiculous. They hadn't won in like 4 months or something.
Yeah.
They were fucking hopeless. They were like, I'd never seen a team more nailed on to go down than them. It was just that the omens were not great for Inverness that season. But somehow Rangers conspired to lose to them, and
Then they
you
lost.
know,
They lost to Dundee as well. I'm pretty
you
sure at
know,
Dens Park.
and then there was kind of you could feel the frustration. You know, because there'd been obviously the big ceremony at the start with going for 55 and unfurling the championship flag and stuff like
Yeah, and
that.
the league was over by
The
October.
league was effectively over, and I think what they needed to do there was stick with Murty and just ride it out and get someone in this summer to properly rebuild,
But
so he has a full season under his belt. But obviously, things didn't pan out that way. And
as the character arrives, Pedro Caixinha.
Before we get into him, they had the one each draw. They had the one each draw at Celtic Park where Clint Hill scored, and Caixinha was at that game.
Yeah,
Caixinha was at that game, and maybe I don't know, because it's such an interesting situation, that game, because Caixinha was at that game. He'd already been hired. He was already the Rangers manager.
Yeah.
But Graham Murty was the man in the dugout, and Murty managed to get a 1-each draw at Parkhead.
At Celtic Park as well, which was,
So maybe if they'd kept Murty till the end of the season, Rangers would have built on that result and just kept going, and the consistency would have done them well. And then, like I said, bring in a new man in the summer so he's got a completely fresh start. But no, instead, they decided to bring in Pedro.
Oh, man, do you remember when he arrived? He was just a nutter. Like, he was just absolutely bonkers. I remember his first game. It was against Motherwell, and I was speaking to Adam McMillan about it.
It was not. His first game was at Hamilton at Rangers, at Ibrox, was it?
Oh, so it was. Sorry, yeah. Oh wait, no, it was actually. And for some reason, it was. I think it was. Did they not Did they not just take off all his defenders and just shove like loads of attackers on and just like, we're like, what are you doing?
But that he's the guy was crazy. The guy is honestly, it's just one of the most baffling appointments. Because I don't. I think he was managing in Qatar before he came to Rangers, and it was unbelievable. The guy, he came in, and I remember his first press conference. I'm not going to do his accent; it's a waste of time. But he came in and he said, what attracted you to the Rangers job? Journalist says, and then he goes, two pieces of data, 54 titles and established 1872, and you're like.
He's reading this off a fucking spreadsheet.
Like, you got fucking Wikipedia open on your phone or something.
I know.
But I think he was. I think with that he was just trying to endear himself to the Rangers fans, and
a lot of Rangers fans liked him. Yeah, a lot of Rangers fans liked him.
Whenever Rangers got a fucking terrible result, he would be out in the media, talking about Rangers glittering past, but there's only so far that can get you. I tell you, the thing that annoys me more than anything else is when managers try to cover their arse by talking about the history of the club. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's just such a cheap, get out of jail free card.
Yeah, for example, like, me and you could do that. Like, me and you could become manager of Rangers and just talk about the history of the club.
I know, but the thing is, unfortunately, there's fans that are still, a small minority of fans that are still kind of brainwashed by that shit. But
I know. The omens weren't good for him. I mean, I remember that he lost 5-1 at home to Celtic, lost in the semi-final to Celtic. They were outclassed still, and then. I mean, it was kind of expected. The Rangers fans kind of expected it to end like the season end like that because how bad it had been.
The summer thing was, I couldn't. It didn't need to end that way. Like I said, they could have kept Murty and they could have built on the 1-each draw at Parkhead, and it maybe would have been different. But no, they brought in Pedro, and the season ended like that. And then, obviously, I know what you're going to say next. Progress, isn't it?
Well, I was actually going to say, first of all, I was going to talk about his signings in the summer before that game.
A lot gets made of the signings, and I admit there was a lot of dross brought in that summer. People like Pena, Herrera, Dalcio.
Dalcio, I remember him. Do you remember this? It always sticks out for me. Is he signed these players, and then there was always a thing on Rangers TV where he would explain them, like why he bought them.
No, I'd never seen that. But he did. He fucking needed to explain some of these.
Nobody knew who they were. They were just these Mexican imports.
The thing was, he signed these pals. He's best pals with Daniel Candeias. He was really friendly with them.
Yeah.
I'm not slagging Daniel Candeias. Obviously,
he was a good player.
He was a cracking player for Rangers during this time, but the thing is, he signed Morelos, and he signed Ryan Jack as well. So really, and they form Ryan Jack is Rangers at this moment is Rangers' most important midfielder.
Yep, Morelos is
their most important player in the whole team. So really, on that basis,
he signed Daniel Candeias as well. He was a top
Daniel
player.
Candeias, he was a solid player for Rangers. I wouldn't say he was exceptional.
He wasn't exceptional, but
he was a solid player.
110%. He also signed a player.
He played in Europe for Gerrard as well.
Yeah, he also signed a solid player. I always rated him, and I don't know how Rangers fans. I remember him signing a player called Declan John, played left back.
Oh yeah, I remember him having a cracking game against Accies at at New Douglas Park, and he scored a brace. He was a solid player. I think he was only a loan, mind you, but obviously they brought in other players like Bruno Alves and stuff. And he came with a pedigree. He'd won the Euros the year before with Portugal, and he'd played in Italy and all sorts. So a lot was expected from him. You know, I think before a ball was kicked, the feeling about some of these signings was good. Spending £3 million or however much it was on Carlos Pena, that's a bit questionable.
Yeah, really. he was a live
wire.
He was a live wire. I mean, he was just trouble wherever he went. But obviously, we have to talk about this game. Progress near the corn. I mean, when they drew them, I was just thinking, right, this is just a team nobody's heard of.
Their name's ridiculous, and they've got a fucking cartoon wasp on their badge. It's terrible.
And then you see their stadium as well. It was basically just like,
oh man,
I've seen junior teams way more higher standard stadiums than that.
The programme notes as well, they fucking crack me up. I don't know if you've ever read them, but it's
what is it?
Right, so it says, it's like, obviously, you know, at the start of the programme, like, there's a wee introduction bit by the manager, the chairman or whoever, and it said, "We do not expect to win against Glasgow Rangers today. They have far too much strength for us, and they will probably beat us easily." And then it was 2-0.
It was 2-0, but do you remember watching the game? It was 2-0, and they were honestly brilliant, like that progress.
I remember I was in America. It was the 4th of July the game was played on. And I was in America. I was sitting in the Yankee baseball stadium in America. And they had free Wi-Fi in the Yankee baseball stadium, so my dad was like, "Right, we'll see how Rangers are getting on." So we took the iPad out of my bag and we flicked on a live stream, and it was like 2-0, and we were state of disbelief. Like, honestly, we like the baseball. We weren't caring about the baseball. Like, we genuinely couldn't believe that this was happening. And I think at that point, he lost a lot of the Rangers support. And bearing in mind, he only got hired in March.
Yeah.
This was July. This has happened in, so barely in the job 4 months. And already people are raising questions about the guy.
Because honestly, the Rangers that season, the Rangers, they would expect it to get through at least a couple of qualifiers. Yeah, and they fought the first hurdle was just mental.
Obviously, they won. They beat them at Ibrox in the first leg, but that was only 1-0.
1-0. Kenny Miller scored.
Even that felt like, oh God, we haven't been playing very well here. But Rangers had the woodwork 3 times in the progress game away, so it has to be said that they were pretty unlucky. But the backlash from that game was obviously massive. Pedro in the bush fighting with the fans. It just, oh God, it wasn't.
And the season hasn't even started yet.
Yeah. And then obviously the season started.
The season started, and honestly, they didn't play too badly. I mean, they signed Graham Dorrans after that game, who came in and done a job.
Oh, they beat Aberdeen 3-0 at Pittodrie, which was like an unbelievable result.
They beat Motherwell first day of the season, and then the Old Firm game comes around, and it's at Ibrox. I mean, undoubtedly Rangers had improved actually a little bit since like the progress game. They started to find a wee bit of form, but I still didn't think that Celtic would be troubled by them. And it was a familiar story. Celtic 2-0, but it was 2-0 with not really anything troubling them the full game.
Rangers really did not raise much of a fight at all. But I think the thing was with Pedro, it was just, even if Rangers had played well, there would always be an asterisk next to it because Pedro was out saying something stupid in the media, or there was some baffling tactical decision. It was just.
It's when he said he had the best team in Scotland. Like,
oh yeah, I mean he said that
they were sitting third.
That is just total. That like journalists like Chris Sutton would just lap that up, and I think that journalists had a lot to do with him because they just like honestly.
He was a journalist gold mine.
Yeah, you know, like obviously the media in Scotland have a very sort of unique relationship with Rangers and Celtic, and when they had, it was the same sort of situation with Paul Le Guen that Rangers had hired like 10 years earlier. You know, he was this foreign guy coming in, he was a bit of an unknown quantity, and the media just totally did not give him a chance. Like, but obviously Paul Le Guen was a bit more dignified than Pedro. Paul Le Guen didn't say things like the dog keeps barking and the caravan keeps moving.
What was that all about, man? Like,
I have no idea. this day. It wasn't even that. It was that we are the best team in Scotland. That was just ridiculous.
Aye.
Like, I don't know where they got off saying that.
Yeah, it all culminated. I mean, they played against the biggest bully team in the league, like Motherwell in the League Cup semi-final. I mean, Motherwell
Fabio Cardozo got his nose broken.
I mean, Ryan Bowman and Louis Moult, I mean, they put like centre backs in hospital like every time they played.
I know, and they had what was the big guy called Kipre? They had him as well.
Yeah. That
was some Motherwell team, to be fair. It was a good team, and that was just a really dirty, horrible game. You know, both managers got sent to the stands, and the writing one that was on the wall for Pedrath that you don't lose 2-0 to Motherwell at Hampden. It's just for Rangers, it's just something that can't happen. Basically,
he didn't actually get sacked after that game, which
he got given another game against Kilmarnock.
Midweek against Kilmarnock, and they drew 1 each, and it was the weirdest one each ever. Do you remember it? So Candeas, they get a penalty in the last minute to go 2-0 up, and Candeas misses it, and Kilmarnock from that penalty break up the park, score, make it 1 each, and he's sacked pretty much straight after the game. I think he had a press conference.
No, they had a press conference and got sacked the next day, I think. But it was just, in a way, that was a blessing in disguise because Rangers, they just needed to get rid of the guy. It was so clear after not a long period of time at all that he was just not the man for the job and he needed to go. And rightfully did go in the end.
Then Graham Martin.
But what a character though! What a character!
I mean, he'll be remembered in Scottish football for a long time.
Can't be underestimated the patter that he brought to Scottish.
Oh, definitely not.
Cannot be underestimated.
And obviously, Graham Martin gets reappointed as the caretaker, and suddenly Rangers get a really big upturn in form because they really pull together and they play brilliant. Like honestly, up until Christmas, they were excellent.
Yeah, and even after Christmas as well.
Christmas as well, yeah.
I think the turning point in that was obviously the 3-2 Celtic game at Ibrox that Celtic managed to win with 10 men. But
up to that point, they were fantastic. I mean, they went away to Florida.
Yeah, I think that was a really good thing with team bonding. I remember there was a picture. It was
my God.
They just starting 11, and SpongeBob's on the end, and a big guy in a rubber SpongeBob costume.
Yeah,
that kind of summed up sort of the more sort of farcical nature of the Rangers at that time.
He done the right thing though for me, Marty. I mean, what he did was he
done the right thing, SpongeBob, by getting that.
I remember in January he brought back Andy Halliday. He brought in Jamie Murphy. He brought in Jason Cummins. He brought in proper Rangers fans who he knew were going to give all for the club, and they really did. I mean, it really showed. Rangers were like, I genuinely thought the title race could be on at one point. Like,
I remember
Christmas.
that. Yeah, and the thing was, I mean, obviously didn't play Jason Cummins very much, but he's the profile of a player that the Rangers fans love. You know, a guy, he's there to score goals.
Yeah,
and he's really passionate. Wears his heart on his sleeve. He's just the right type of player that the Old Firm fans love.
Yeah,
and I think that he was a really smart acquisition, and it was a shame for the Rangers fans that obviously didn't get to play that much.
He could have been the Rangers' Lee Griffiths. I always thought.
He could have. Obviously, he was part of that Hibs team that won the cup. But I think his heart was definitely at Rangers.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it was a shame that after that, the crushing disappointment of losing 3-2 to 10 men at Ibrox against Celtic.
That was kind of the unravelling of Murty. I mean, it showed.
In a way that the wheels came off at that point, and I think Murty personally was very hurt by that. I think he couldn't fathom losing that game. He just thought, fucking hell, 10 men, and we
still can't beat them. The thing is about that game,
it was a feeling of hopelessness after that. I think
the thing is, it kind of showed the difference between the two sides again. Mainly the difference between the two managers, because Celtic that day got Jozo Simunovic sent off, and the first thing Brendan Rodgers done was bring on another centre back and then bring on a striker, and it was 2 each away to your biggest rivals in the biggest game of the season. At 10 men down, he brings on a striker. That striker scored. Murty waited till they were 3-2 down to bring on another striker, and by that point, it was too late.
Yeah, it was too late. But I think Graham Murray's a great academy coach for Rangers,
Definitely.
you know, and he's doing well in a job there. Obviously, his remit is developing the players that can hopefully go on into the Rangers first team. But I don't think he's cut out for those big, massive occasions, and I
Nah,
think he kind of crumbled under that. And then that was none more so was that evident than in the 4-0 game in the
at the semi-final.
semi-final.
Yeah,
After that, that was.
you watch the
I,
highlights of that game. I thought that game, honestly, that I had a feeling Rangers would come out again the same way they did in the 3-2 game, really try and get after Celtic, but they just didn't. They just sat off them, and
yeah.
it was so easy for Celtic.
Yeah,
And
they had bearing in mind they had Russell Martin playing centre back, and
oh
no
god,
no offence to Russell Martin, but
he wasn't the best, was he?
he was not this up to the standard of Rangers. I think people thought because he played so many games for Norwich, people thought, well, he must be of
Must
a
be
certain
decent.
level,
No,
and he had Scotland caps to his name and stuff, but it was just not the right player that Rangers needed at that time.
nah, definitely not. I mean, for me, like it just kind of capitulated after, like you said, the 3-2 game. The week after that, they lost at home to Kilmarnock, like
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. I think confidence was dwindling, and that was the season where the 5-0 was it not at Celtic
5-0
Park?
at Celtic Park. That was the last.
Yeah,
I mean, and Celtic won the league that day. I mean, that must have been absolutely
that
crushing
was
for Rangers fans to
just.
lose the league
I,
away to
I,
Celtic.
I remember watching that game and just thinking Rangers look so hopeless here.
Yeah,
They look so out of their depth because Celtic obviously came. Celtic smelt blood and they came flying. They came flying out the blocks like there was nothing stopping them
no.
basically, and it was just a total onslaught for the first sort of half an hour. And Rangers couldn't deal with it.
And once again at the end of that season, Rangers obviously Murray leaves, goes back to the academy job, and they end up finishing third that season, which after 2 seasons in the Premiership, 2 third place finishes really isn't what the fans were expecting. They'd
No,
expect at
it
least to
certainly
get
was
second,
not.
but then the news comes that Mister Gerrard's getting the job. I mean that was a I have to say I mean that just took me by complete surprise. I did not expect. I seen he was linked with it, and I thought nah, no chance, surely not.
Yeah, it was a surprising appointment because prior to that he'd only had under 18s experience at Liverpool under his belt in terms of managerial experience. But you know, it
He
was
was a big
another.
name.
I think there was a sort of feeling around the club at that time that maybe we're sick of these gambles. We're sick of bringing in people like Pedro. We need a safe pair of hands. And Gerrard, he was not a safe pair of hands, but
No,
nothing to say that he wouldn't be an unmitigated disaster like Pedro was. Obviously, he hasn't
yeah,
been.
he
But
didn't say mental things in the media, but
no, he didn't say crazy things in the media. But I think if the Rangers board had a lot to account for after that season. They
yeah,
definitely did because they'd given Pedro a fucking stupid amount of money to spend, and half the players had gone off. Carlos Pena, how much did they spend on him? And he was seen fucking wiping his nose on a pair of Rangers shorts back in
yeah.
Mexico. So they didn't want to get burned again, and maybe it would have benefited them to be a bit more cautious when getting a new manager. But I think getting Gerrard, it was a bold move, and in my opinion, Gerrard's been a success at Rangers. Obviously, they haven't won a trophy, but in my opinion, he's been successful in managing to take Rangers up to that level that they're
Yeah,
required to be at.
yeah. Well, that's going to be a future episode of this. Is he the right man to take Rangers forward? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll discuss that one day in the future. I wanted to ask you about the 3 million, like the amount of money that Pedro was given to spend at Rangers. See if they'd given that money to Warburton. Do you think they could have? I don't know. Maybe
I
got
think, yeah. Well, the thing is, Warburton has had very, very good contacts in the English Championship, and I think personally, for the old firm clubs, the English Championship is a great market for them.
oh, definitely.
Because there's a lot of because the Premier League, it's harder to kind of get their youngsters on loan, obviously because it's a higher standard and things like that. But I think that the English Championship is a great league. It's a great marketplace for Rangers and Celtic because a lot of young boys down there, they've heard about the old firm, they want to come up and they want to experience it.
Yeah.
And it would do it. does their careers wonders. Obviously, Barry Mackay done it in reverse. He was at Rangers, now he's doing well in the Championship. Same with Josh Windass and stuff like that. So
Yeah, Joe
I
Garner.
think because the SPL and the English Championship are sort of similar levels in
Yeah.
terms of standard.
I think a lot of English people like underrate the Scottish game, but if you do watch them, we've obviously watched the Premiership, we've watched the English Championship. They are very
Yeah,
similar.
they're similar. Obviously, Rangers and Celtic aren't at a level where they can be competing in the top 6 in England, but I think higher in the Championship's definitely where they are. And going back to the question, Mark Warburton has great contacts down there with Brentford and stuff like that. So maybe he could have recruited players, but it's hard to say. I think he was. I mean, that summer that Mark Warburton was given going into the Premiership, his signings overall, they weren't brilliant. So on the strength of that, maybe not.
So Gerrard comes in, his first transfer window. I mean, I thought it was interesting the fact they got rid of Josh Windass, who was he might have been, was he the top goal scorer of the season before, or was he second top goal scorer?
He was joint top with Morelos, I believe.
Yeah, he gets rid of him, and he brings in a lot of players. He brings in like Connor Goldson, Nikola Katic. God, who else did they bring in? He brought in a load, Ovid Ajaria.
Yeah, obviously he wasn't brilliant.
He wasn't the best.
Umar Sadiq as well.
Oh God,
not great. Yeah,
it was a mixed bag, his transfer window. But I mean, unlike the other managers, it was a mixed bag. But the signings that worked out seemed to be very good. I mean, Connor Goldson immediately turned around the Rangers' defence.
Yeah, Goldson and Katic were immediately they were a force.
The one thing about
them together brought such cohesion to the Rangers backline in those first few months, and then obviously Rangers went on and played. What are they called again? I can't remember. They're a Croatian team. Anyway, they played them and then. No, they're Macedonian. But they played this Croatian team in the Europa League qualifiers, and Gerrard must have fancied some of their players because from them we brought in Barisic and Eros Grezda. Remember him?
Yeah. Oh God.
Brought in both of them. So, I think it was very canny in the transfer market, especially in terms of our defence.
It was.
I can't remember. Did you bring in Stephen Davis that summer as well?
I think he might have came in January. I think he was a January.
I can't remember.
He brought back Alan McGregor, which was a big.
He brought back Alan McGregor, which was good, but which was a great acquisition because he knows what it's all about. He knows.
He's been there and done it with Rangers.
He knows what it's like to win trophies with Rangers. I think there was a lot of scepticism because when Rangers brought him in, I think he was sort of 35, 36, but as we know, goalkeepers, they can play till that.
They can play on
45 or something.
He's been undoubtedly.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Alan McGregor really does take care of himself, so he could play for a long time.
Gerrard's first season, I mean, you look at it, I mean, I think it was a fantastic first season, if I'm perfectly honest with you. He gets to, also it was disappointing semi-final against Aberdeen in the League Cup. But other than that, I mean, he gets him into Europe. He beats Celtic twice. I mean,
yeah, there was a lot of positives to take from that season. A lot of them, obviously, the semi-final against Aberdeen was a major disappointment. I think Morelos was suspended for that game. And,
Umar Sadiq played up front and Kyle Laffey was injured.
Umar Sadiq had to come in, and it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen by a Rangers player. It was horrendous.
He never played for Rangers again after that.
Yeah, I did. It went to show that, listen, even though Rangers had improved, there was still work to be done, and that is the story of Rangers ever since they got back into the top flight.
They've been gradually improving.
They've been gradually improving, but they could always go that bit further. They could always get better to properly compete with Celtic. And obviously they won twice against Celtic that season, which was magnificent for the Rangers fans. And I remember the Tavernier goal at Ibrox after 2 minutes or whatever it was, and that really laid down a marker. That was like, right, we'll go for them straight away. We're not going to sit here and lie back and let them run all over us like we have done in the past. They fucking went for them and scored after 2 minutes. So
my theory's always been with this. and I don't know if you'll agree with me. It's almost not up to Rangers whether they're going to win the league. It's up to Celtic. It's
Yeah,
like if
I
Celtic
know.
are still ahead of them, so they have to rely on Celtic slipping up for
The
me.
thing is, when you look at the spine of Celtic's team, you know, it's just, there's so many players in there that have just played for them for so long and have been consistently brilliant for so long. Players like Forrest, Brown, McGregor, Griffiths. You know, you could go on
Yeah.
talking about players like that. You know, they've got such consistency, and these players know how to win the league. They know what it's all about. They know what the old firm's all about, and I just think that
They're used to winning. They're
yeah,
used to winning. That's the thing.
exactly. Rangers need to be their very best, and Celtic need to be just below their best for Rangers to have a good crack at it. And that's what I think.
A lot of Rangers fans thought it was going to be this season. I mean,
Because
obviously didn't.
Celtics, obviously the financial element of it as well.
Yeah.
Celtics' finances are on a different level to Rangers. Rangers, don't forget, got liquidated less than 10 years ago, and it takes a long time to recover from that.
On your honest opinion, I mean, this will probably be another future episode as well, but we'll give a wee flavour of it now. Do you think this Rangers team, I mean, we don't know when the season's going to start, but do you think this Rangers team can stop 10 in a row?
It's the big question, isn't it? It's the one that will shape the course of Scottish football for generations. People are going to talk about it forever. I think if they're sensible in the transfer market, and by sensible I mean, you know, good investment into good players. And I think if Morelos can get the monkey off his back and score against Celtic, if they can remove these stupid hoodoos, if they can, you know, if they can play on a plastic pitch,
Yeah.
if Morelos can score against Celtic, if they can win all their games, well, not all their games, if they can have unbelievable home form, if they can get the fans right behind them, I don't see why they couldn't do it. I really don't see why they couldn't do it.
I think
because Celtic are not the invincible team they used to be. I know we've just praised them massively, but they're not the invincible team they used to be. Neil Lennon is not on the same level tactically as Brendan Rodgers. That is an undeniable fact.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I've worried he's been put under pressure, and Lennon. I mean, a lot of Celtic fans were annoyed when he got the job, but I have to say, I mean,
he's
done
proved
well.
them wrong. Proved them wrong massively.
But this is the big one. This is the big. This season coming is the biggest season.
This is make or break.
Football.
And I think already, I mean, no Rangers manager has went 2 full seasons without not winning a trophy.
Yeah,
Gerrard's broken
running that
this season, so he has a lot to prove next season. Put it that way.
So that's it. I think. I mean, that's been the.
That's all you want to cover. That was good. I enjoyed that. So yeah. First podcast done.
Yeah, that was the fall and the subsequent rise of Rangers. Where will they be in the next 5 years? Who knows? Who knows where we'll all be in the next couple of weeks? To be honest with you, we don't know, but we'll still have episodes coming your way. So,
exactly.
DL, if you've got any messages like to say now.
Just stay safe, everybody, and hope you've enjoyed the programme. Just an absolute cliche, but I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, if you have enjoyed, make sure you remember to like, share, and subscribe on these videos. We're going to be coming to you very soon again, and I hope you enjoyed, and we're bye.
Right.